This mystery thing, like everyone's like, oh, he's got good feel, or someone has to work on their feel. What is feel, and how does that relate to style? Anyone want to just gather a guess?
I think it's related to rhythm.
Yeah.
I think the feel. I think a large part of it comes from the rhythm.
That is true. Yeah. Donovan, you want to take a guess on there?
Probably like kind of how your stroke is on your hit and dynamics and stuff.
Dynamics, all the little details go into feel. Yeah. Anything else?
Well, it just felt like there was a lot more kind of like focus on quarter notes as opposed to kind of the 2 and 4 with jazz.
Yeah. Yeah. And what about in terms of the guitar, what Anthony, Dr. Presmar is showing?
Well, he had a lot more treble and stone. So I switched to the treble kit.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a different timbre on the guitar, right? Obviously he's got all his toys here, so he can create a different style, a different aesthetic. That's a word that maybe you guys haven't heard before, aesthetic.
Good SAT word.
It's a good SAT word when you guys are older, certainly. But aesthetic goes into style, the energy, with jazz, straight ahead, there's a different energy. With country, it's a little bit more straight in a way, right? So yeah, so let's do another. Unless you guys have any like suggestions for a style or a genre that we can try, just for like improvisation's sake.
Gypsy jazz.
Gypsy jazz.
Django.
Django. What do you think, Doctor?
Yeah, get somebody had some.
I was gonna say
bluegrass. I could do that.
Bluegrass would be fun too.
Did you bring your banjo?
I did not.
Darn it!
There we go. Stop here.
Okay, let's first pick a tempo.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
There you go.
that's cool.
I need an acoustic guitar for that.
Yeah, so maybe let's try one more style. Maybe like punk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, we all have a lot of experience playing jazz, but we all started out playing rock, and we're gonna get back to our roots right now.
So let's go ahead and do the A section. This kind of sounds like a different song almost, right? Because you know what else has changed when we played the more rockin' punkish style?
The notes are kind of stretched out a little.
Yeah, the melody stretches out. You know, those power chords sort of helps that. Anything else?
Guys, we're hitting a lot harder.
Yeah, dynamics exactly, right? We're hitting a lot harder. And also, what one other thing related to the rhythm? Tempo, right? Tempo changed a little bit. We got a little bit faster. So, so anyway, I think this is a good foundation for style, right? You know, you get to hear how different songs sound with different timbres, different rhythms, different tempos, different dynamics. So I think I'm going to pass the baton over to David, and he's going to talk about form.
Form. All right. Well, on behalf of my bandmates, thank you guys for coming, and I hope you guys are enjoying our presentation. And it's nice to see that you guys came out to see your teacher, but shouldn't you guys be at school today?
No.
No, it's not.
Why not? Oh, it's Saturday. And you don't go to school on Saturday, do you?
No,
Why not?
because it's the weekend.
It's the weekend. So that is an example of form. The week has a form to it. Most of us work or go to class from Monday to Friday, and then we have the weekend off, right? So you can come and hang out and listen to Outside Pedestrian and do whatever other fun things you have. And so when I talk about form in music, I admit that it's not necessarily the most exciting topic, but it's an important one because almost every style of music in the world has some sort of a form to it. So if you're a teacher, you're going to be teaching it, and if you're a student, you're going to be learning it. Like when you guys start playing in bands, which hopefully you guys are going to do, you're going to have to learn what's the verse, what's the chorus, what's this part of the song, what's that part of the song, you know? And even if you're not in a music class, even if you're just in a band, it's still good to understand what a form of a tune is. It helps you learn material more quickly, it helps you interpret it better, it helps you tell the story instead of just playing the notes. So, and yeah, even some of you might not even be musicians. Some of you might just like listening to music.
Yeah.
And it's still important to understand form because it can help you be a more intelligent listener. It can make you sound smarter when you get into fights with your friends on Facebook about whether you two should have just given up after the Joshua tree. But anyways, so I'm going to talk about, so form is something that we've got to deal with, no matter what capacity we work in, no matter what our relationship with music is. And so I'm going to try to model two ways that I think are good to teach or to learn it. One of which I already did, which is to sort of compare it to other things in life besides music that have a form, such as the week. What's another example of something that's non-musical that has some sort of a form? A book, good, good. I was thinking the same thing. A story has what? A beginning?
Middle and end.
Right, you know? And so that's an example of a form. And if you take a specific kind of story, like say a mystery, what happens at the beginning of a mystery?
Somebody dies.
So there's a murder or some sort of a crime, and then we have all the suspects and so forth, and then you think it's this guy, and no, it ends up being that person instead, and there's a cliffhanger, and everyone gets all scared, right? And so that's another example of form. And so I think drawing on stuff that people might have a reference from outside of music can be a good way of teaching form. Because just as stories have beginnings, middle, and ends, they have certain elements, so too do various forms in music, whether it's a classical form or a jazz form or rock or pop or whatever. The other aspect of form that I think is, or the other method of form, teaching form that I think is a good way of doing it is to make it interactive. And that's what I'm going to attempt to do right now. There's a little bit of an audience participation part here, and I'm going to, my band is going to play with me, and we're going to show you where the audience participation comes in, and then you'll get a chance to try it on your own, right? Great, so we're nice and medium. 1, 2, 3. Salt peanuts, salt peanuts. 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 Salt peanuts, salt. Nice, good job, guys. Let's try it a little bit faster. Usually when people play this tune, they play it really quickly. We wanted to kind of slow it down a little bit so you can hear everything that's going on. But let's try playing it a little more up. 1, 2, 3. Salt peanuts, salt peanuts. 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 The letter A. We call our main theme the A theme. And then when we get into the part of tequila where everybody says tequila, it does something different. And what do you think, if our main theme is A, what do you think our second theme might be?
B.
B. And so both tequila and salt peanuts are examples of what we call an A, B, A form. And what does that mean? A, B, A.
The A repeats 3 times.
The A repeats 3 times. And one of the reasons why this form is really popular in a lot of jazz and pop and rock and other styles is because it gives you enough repetition so that the tune gets in your head, but it doesn't do the same thing over and over again. You do the same thing over and over again, it gets
Boring.
and if you do one thing after another with never coming back to what you're doing before, you get lost, it's confusing, it doesn't make any sense. Like you go to watch a good action movie, a good sci-fi movie, it's not just people blowing each other up for the whole thing, right? There's action, there's like a lull in the action, and then we have more action again, so there's a shape to it. And that's why form is helpful because it sort of gives composers or songwriters kind of a blueprint to go by. And as you know, just because the form is just because the A section is repeated 3 times doesn't mean that it's going to be the same. There might be a little bit of variation, but it sort of gives composers a blueprint to follow, such as myself. And we're actually going to play a tune that I wrote that follows the AA-EA form. It's a tune called Jake's Shuffle. It's on our record Reclaimed. I actually named it after a student of mine and this riff that I was teaching him at a lesson that we were doing. This is a tune that, Rita was asking about our approach and how we think of ourselves stylistically. One of the things that I think we all pride ourselves on is that we all have very varied and eclectic taste in music, and we like to blend different styles of music like jazz and blues and rock. And this is a tune that's an example of an AABA tune that sort of follows modal jazz, and you can look at the back of the sheet if there's any questions about what modal jazz is. But it also has sort of like a blues feel on the guitar and sort of a rock backbeat. So we sort of take these different elements and make them into something that's kind of cool, and well, hopefully kind of cool. Anyways, let's give it a shot.
What is improvisation?
Playing what you're feeling.
Playing what you feel. Okay.
Making it up as you go.
Making it. Okay. Good. Anybody else?
Promptu.
Impromptu, improvisation, impromptu. Okay, good. Making it up as you go. Playing what you feel. Yeah. Anything else?
Maybe pulling from like past knowledge of like scales, modes, being aware of what you're playing, but making it up as you go is kind of the idea, but not just anything more like defined.
Right, yeah, so you're pulling it more into this educated way of thinking about what improvisation is. Typically when we define improvisation, it's kind of what everybody discussed. Probably the most standard, typical definition is spontaneous composition. Spontaneous composition. So if we think about the term spontaneous, basically most of what I heard was sort of linked into the idea of spontaneity. So meaning that, we do something silly, or we do something funny, or we do something on the spot, it's spontaneous, right? So think about improvisation the same way, and that's not completely off the mark. There's definitely an element of that. Dave brought up the other day as we were discussing this, the show Whose Line Is It Anyway? Definitely those of us who are a little bit older, they remember that show. It was around that long ago. But Whose Line Is It Anyway is improvisational acting, right? And so if you watch that show, you get this feeling that the people that are doing it, Drew Carey and all the rest of them, are incredibly spontaneous, right? But I always felt as I was watching that show that so many of the things that they did were almost too quick. It was almost too smart, that kind of stuff, And it had to have been rehearsed on some level. So it wasn't totally spontaneous. And jazz improvisation, any kind of improvisation, is really the same way. We think about it as being spontaneous, but I think that definition, spontaneous composition, really the composition part is probably the more accurate part of it. So we think about composition, we think about composers. Who are some well-known, accomplished composers from history? Anybody name anybody? Composers.
Yeah,
Beethoven,
Mozart.
right? Beethoven is usually considered kind of the quintessential composer. Artist, very creative. His style, he's really considered sort of like the first true artist in a way, not the people before that weren't artists. But he was one of the first people to really make a living as a composer based on what he was doing creatively. not like Mozart, all these people that came before him, who were really hired guns, sort of, you're hired to write for the king or whatever. You're hired to write for the church. Okay, Beethoven was really doing his own thing. He was independent. He was kind of a freelance musician doing his own thing. So, he's definitely, considered one of the great composers. Who else? Anybody else besides
John Williams is a composer.
Okay, yeah, so
We all know
more
him.
currently, John Williams, the great film composer. What about the jazz world?
Oh,
There's lots of them.
yeah. Like Dave Brubeck.
Yeah, Dave Brubeck, definitely one. He actually he died recently. Had a degree in composition, right? From Pacific Visit, the one that was up in Northern California. It's one of those school of music's actually named after him now. But he was a composition major, and then he ended up getting into composition as part of his jazz. Probably Duke Ellington is the most famous jazz composer, but these are people, especially if you think about the classical composers, Mozart, Beethoven, Bach, they're all people who started off at a very early age playing music. Right? You guys are getting a nice jump start there. Very early age playing music, and they played different instruments, and they really internalized what music was all about. And then they started to work on composing. Mozart at a very early age, with his father sort of hand in hand helping him out. But this was something that they crafted over years. It's a lifetime to become a great composer. It takes tons of skill, and skill that you learn from studying and understanding chords, harmony, understanding melody, understanding form, understanding style, depending on the type of music. Even Beethoven was thinking about style back then. So there are all these different elements that you have to pull together in a creative way to make a composition. So composers study and work forever to do that, right? So the jazz thing, or improvisation, I should say, is really more linked into that idea. It's really the great improvisers in history spent a lifetime cultivating their style and the skills that it takes in order to be a great improviser. I'm certainly still working at it. And these guys can say the same thing. So who are some of the great improvisers? Do you know?
Charles Mingus.
Okay, Mingus. Yeah, and Mingus is known also as a great